Hello YouTube, this is Michael B, the Game Genie, and this is a video response to TheGameManDan and his top 10 PS2 games. I apologize about walking in there. I'm shooting by myself today. Usually my beautiful and very talented wife is the one who records my videos for me, but unfortunately she's at work today and I'm off, so I just wanted to get a chance to do this video. GameManDan did a very interesting PS2 list, his top 10 of the games that he owned, and I wanted to kind of do a counterpoint. As you probably heard GameManDan say in his video, he's not a huge fan of role-playing games, and the PS2 wasn't really known for its role-playing games. It had a lot of them. Unfortunately, most of them weren't really that good. The PS2 is kind of where the great role-playing games from the Super Nintendo era and the PlayStation 1 area kind of went to die because they really tried to change the format, focus more on the 3D aspect of the game, and really lost the original tone of the games. First game I want to talk about is one that kind of bucked that trend and is possibly, in my opinion, the best role-playing game of that era, if not the best role-playing game in its series. And it's produced by Square Enix, and if you want to get a full review of this, that's amazing, check out Rue from Clan of the Grey Wolf. He did a 16-bit gem, and he actually called it a 64-bit gem because of the PlayStation 2, on Dragon Quest VIII. And Dragon Quest VIII was a beautiful game. I spent about 120 hours on it, which is rare for me because I usually try to get through a role-playing game in 40 to 50 hours. I'm not a completionist when it comes to role-playing games. I just try to get through them, but this game was just amazing. The storyline was great. The cell shading made the game look beautiful. It was such a vibrant and enjoyable world. Really advise you to check it out, and that is Dragon Quest VIII. The next one I want to talk about is, I'm going to go back to Dragon Quest VIII for a second. You'll see there, right here, there's a playable demo inside for a game called Final Fantasy XII, and a lot of people don't like Final Fantasy XII, and that's because it's one of the games that kind of changed the system. Specifically, the combat system was completely redone in Final Fantasy XII, which made it a little bit of a task to play for people that are familiar with the old Final Fantasies. However, Final Fantasy XII was an amazing game. It had a great storyline, it looked great, it was kind of a return to force for the Final Fantasy series in the sense they went back to more of a, instead of a science fiction type atmosphere, they went back to basically a very simple world. There were some airships, there was, countries colliding. Reminded me a lot of the storyline of Final Fantasy II, and I really enjoyed it. On kind of a side note, I had a group of friends when I was around 15, 16, 17. There was around 5 of us, and we were all really into the PlayStation 1, Super Nintendo, and role-playing games. We all used to start the same game and see who could finish it first. One of my friends, when we were 25, he had actually just bought a PlayStation 2, and he picked up Final Fantasy XII as well. So we kind of went back in time, and we did that. We saw who could get through the quickest. And I remember going to parties, and my friend Terry, who I'm talking about, wouldn't show up. And he was actually home playing Final Fantasy XII, and he'd call me the next day and say, "Oh, I jumped ahead of you." So anyways, maybe it wasn't so much the game as that experience, but I love Final Fantasy XII. Get a chance, pick it up. The next one I want to talk about is another Square Enix game. It's a series I'm not really familiar with. I have the second one on PlayStation 2. I've never really played it. I'm about 25 hours into this quest when I stopped playing it. It's got a different combat system that I'm not quite used to just yet, and that is Grandia III. Grandia III is beautiful. If anybody has had a chance to see any clips of it or they've played it, you'll know that it's a very bright, exciting to look at game. Also, it's got one of the funnest opening intro sequences I can ever remember in a video game. It does a song called In the Sky, and it's just a lot of fun to hear. Great video set to it as well. I love Grandia 3. I'm about 25 hours into it. I'm not very good at the combat system. I think I'm going to have to go back to the start, play it again, and we'll see where it goes from there. But it's definitely a game I want to go back to. Again, more role-playing games. This is a series of role-playing games that was released on the PlayStation 2 by Namco. And the team that worked on it, though, at least the first one, wasn't originally a Namco team. They were actually a Squaresoft team. And they developed a game called Xenogears, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. But Xenogears was a project Square didn't see any point on working on anymore, so the team left and joined Namco and developed the Xenosaga series. So Xenosaga 1 was an amazing game. Anybody who's played Xenosaga 1 knows there's a basically this giant mech robot that you can get from doing a side quest, which makes the game ridiculously easy to finish. But Xenosaga 1 was an amazing game. I pre-ordered this at Electronics Boutique, which is the equivalent of GameStop in the States, and it came with a DVD as well of all the cinema scenes. If you come across that, I'd advise you not to watch that before you play the game because you'll ruin a lot of the storyline. But it was just a beautiful game. Unfortunately, I think what happened after the first Xenosaga game was amazing storyline, great game. They had some cuts from the team that was there, and the storyline kind of went in a different direction for the second game, Xenosaga Episode 2. And, you know, it kind of went off the rails, but it was still fun to play, and I still wanted to see where these characters ended up. It was fun to watch, basically, the characters progress over the course of 3 games, and then, of course, it was Xenosaga 3, which came out right after, what was the name of the movie? The Da Vinci Code. And, dear God, this series had, in my opinion, one of the most frustrating and worst endings I've ever seen. And it's basically, I think the team direction, they just watched the Da Vinci Code and said, yeah, maybe we could do that with Xenosaga. Anyways, it was still a fun set of games. Very frustrating ending. Sorry to spoil it, but anyways, definitely check it out if you get a chance. So moving away from the role-playing games for a second, I want to talk about, in my opinion, a great action-adventure game for the PlayStation 2. It's pretty much what I wanted the N64 equivalent to be, and we all thought it would be, which is Castlevania Lament of Innocence. Castlevania Lament of Innocence was a fun game. I bought it day one as soon as it came out, expecting that it was going to be kind of a 3D version of the Castlevania Symphony of the Night Circle of the Moon series, but what it actually was, it did have some elements where you can get power-ups, but it was more of a return to the original Castlevania series. Not a lot of people talk about this game, a lot of people really like it. I really, really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it to anybody that comes across it. So if you get a chance to pick up Castlevania Lament of Innocence, I'd advise you to do so. Great game. And going back to role-playing games for a second, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, I'm a huge PlayStation 1 role-playing game fan, and I started right after Final Fantasy VII came out, about Final Fantasy VII. I loved it, and then pretty much I was interested in any role-playing game that was coming out for the PlayStation 1. One game was Legend of Legaia, or Legend of Legia, I call it, and I was very excited to find out that a sequel was coming out for the PlayStation 2. So I bought the sequel, Lydia 2, and for those of you who don't know what this is, it's a great role-playing game. It's pretty simple to do. It's got some combination moves as well, very similar to Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, where you can combo between 2 people. Fun game, around a 40-hour playthrough. If you're a fan of role-playing games, fan of PlayStation 1 role-playing games, this is actually a pretty close match to the PlayStation 1 equivalent. They didn't change a whole lot, it just looks a lot nicer. Really enjoyed it. And how can I talk about any PlayStation 2 collection without mentioning some of the just absolute most beautiful and fun to play games in the whole series, which is God of War. God of War 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 2 were incredible. For the time on the PlayStation 2, no one had saw backgrounds, no one had saw action like this. They're beautiful games. You know, they are what they are. They're going to take about 8 to 12 hours to play through. You can get through them in one day. So I wouldn't pay a lot for them, but they're absolutely worth it. So God of War 1 and 2. So I wouldn't really say they're my top 10 PlayStation 2 games. I don't really like doing top 10 lists, but anyways, they are 10 PlayStation 2 games that I would advise you to check out. Great games. So anyways, thank you very much for watching. Thank you, GameManDan, for making an interesting video, and talk to you next time.